Awesome, we're live. Can you see me? I
can't
can't see me.
I can't see you either.
Oh, gosh. Where am I? There I am. Hi.
Whoa!
Nice.
Cool. All right, awesome. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first live show that's actually about movies and not about TV of the year, which is my bad, but whatever. My name's Rachel. Like, I was on here literally like 4 hours ago, 5 hours ago, whatever. I'm doing Rubber City reviews now. I'm the UA intern for the 330 to Go people. That's who I am. And welcome to the best and the worst of 2020, according to us. We're going to have some on.
Oh. She froze.
Go.
There you go.
Hello?
I hear you.
Oh,
I mean, I hear you, but
I hear you, but
you're frozen.
you are, yeah.
I don't know what happened. My webcam just went kaput. But yeah, we're doing the best and the worst of 2020. Yeah, honorable mentions, some things we're looking forward to, all that good stuff. If you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves while I try to fix this on my end.
All right, ladies first.
Oh, thank you, Evan. I'm Maggie Fashpa. I'm actually a University of Akron graduate. I got a bachelor's in electrical engineering, but I run a reaction page, Mag's Taste Test, and so I mostly react to snacks for fun, but I also have a lot of film-based challenges that I give myself, you know, trying to watch all the top 250 movies on IMDb list and trying to watch all the movies that have ever been nominated for Best Picture. And that's my current challenge right now. But every year, if you know me, you know that when the Oscars come around, I get into high gear and try to watch as many movies that were nominated as possible, and then do like a live red carpet streaming, or, you know, I try to channel my Joan Rivers, you know, and I'm all like, oh, that dress was terrible, or, you know, what are you even doing there? Why did that movie get it, you know? So I was invited to share my top 10 best 2020 movies and my least favorite 5, and I'm excited to join you guys. Thank you.
Nice. My name is Evan Pohl. I'm also a graduate from the University of Akron, and I run a page on Facebook called Preview Review, where I try to weekly talk about movies that are brand new that just came out the weekend that I post the reviews. I am currently in the middle of watching the Sundance Film Festival, taking a quick break so we can talk about the top 10 best movies of the year as well as the bottom 5 worst in terms of our opinions. So I'm very excited.
I mean, what can I say other than go Zips, I guess. Yeah, perfect. All right, great. So we can just jump right into it. I'm so happy that we're doing this. This was Evan's idea, by the way. I just want to like point that out. It was really good. I was like, yeah, we should do that. And then I realized I didn't see that many movies. I didn't even see at least like 20 in 2020. So we agreed to do a top 10 of the best and a top 5 of the worst, or bottom 5, I guess. But yeah, we're going to start with like just our number 10s. And I don't know who should go first. I don't know. We'll start with our 10 though, talk about each of our 10s a little, keep going, and then eventually get to 1. But we're going to start with the worst ones, I think. I think that's what we talked about. Yep, we'll start with the worst.
Ramp it up into maybe should we start with the absolute worst? Like, just get it out of my energy.
I think so. I'm going to get really heated, so.
Yeah, I'm going to start with my bottom 5, and then we'll talk about like each of ours, and then eventually we'll do our top 10. All right, perfect. Who should go first? How should we determine this?
You know, Evan, you seem the most passionate, so I would love to get your energy out there of what you just thought was the
Especially
worst.
Since you
watched
all the worst, like actually like watched a lot more movies than we
did.
Yeah, I was about to say that. I'm joined by 2 simpletons because I saw 150 movies in 2020.
You know, that's actually a fair claim, because when I was asked, I actually looked at my list, and it was definitely in the 20s or less range of 2020 movies. So yes, we are simpletons comparatively.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm saying that because I watched a lot of mediocre stuff, a lot of forgettable stuff, but I also like to think that I really saw some of the worst of the worst. And I mean, my wife and I did a top 15 worst of the year, all 15 of which got a 1 or lower. So the fact that these are my bottom 5 really just solidifies the fact that how really bad they are. So we might as well get into it. I'm going to start off with my number 5, which was a Netflix film called Coffee and Kareem. A wonderful title. I can say this pretty much about all the films that I will be talking about, at least in my bottom 5, is that they're all offensive in one way or another, and it takes a lot to offend me. Like Superbad, Sausage Party, whole bunch of comedies never offended me. So all 5 of these really offended me, and this one in particular is probably the worst comedy I saw last year, simply because it makes jokes about pretty much anything: racism, sexism, pedophilia, police brutality. It's all on the chopping block for a joke, and none of them land at all. It's incredibly annoying. It's, oh my gosh. This is just my number 5, and I'm already getting a headache. It's just such a annoying piece of filmmaking that never got a serious laugh out of me, and often just upset me to my very core. So
I'm sorry you had to go through that.
No.
Sounds like you had to
like I said,
gymnastics.
This is just my number 5 pick.
So to understand, this is of the 5 worst. This was the best of the worst.
Correct.
Or is this the worst?
Coffee and
No. These are the bottom 5, bottom of the barrel pieces of crap.
15.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
All right. I can go into
Go ahead.
So for me, in terms of my 2020, as I was trying to watch as many as I could to catch up, because with COVID and not going to theaters as much, and with the other movies, I was severely behind. But this was a nice challenge. My angle will be a little different. Of the films I watched, the one I'm going to mention is, of the 5, the better of the worst, but I just didn't like it as much. And that was the American Murder documentary. Was my 5th worst. And the reason being because everybody was so blown away by the story, and I had heard a lot about it. And when I watched the documentary, the style was very presentary. Like, it was a presentation of what was already out there, and what was, I didn't feel like I learned a lot, or I didn't get his side of the story. And usually with documentaries, I'm looking for completion, or some more info. I'm just hungry for something that's like a snippet. And maybe the best part was the interrogation scene, because it was the worst way to, like, they were like, come on, and he's like, no, I swear, and they were just so like, come on. Like, so for me, in terms of like a documentary experience, it was probably the most stale for me, because I was wanting more, and usually a documentary either whets my palate of like, I want to keep researching. And maybe that's just to the disservice of the story. Of, it's shocking enough to know the story, but the documentary didn't give me anything from it, so that's why it's in my 5 slot.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah, I didn't see it, but that sucks. I'm sorry. Yeah. So I guess my.
But,
oh.
No.
Yeah, you just run into it. I feel it. I guess the best of my top 5, like the number 5 of my, like, not the worst, the best of my 5. The first one I have is Death to 2020, which is a Netflix original, like, mockumentary. I didn't watch a lot. I only watched, I'm not gonna lie, because I was like, okay, like, this could be funny, and I'm a huge fan of Stranger Things, and I knew Joe Carey was in it.
Yeah.
And Free Guy, I guess, got pushed to this year, because I was like, oh, it's coming out Christmas, and then I didn't hear anything about it, and then the bio of their Twitter is just like, coming in May, and I was like, okay, so I wanted to watch this because I saw he was in it, and honestly, it just wasn't that funny. There were, like, a couple of bits, like the housewife, like, that they, like, the fake housewife that, like, gets into some really, like, weird political stuff. That was a funny character, but, like, Samuel L. Jackson, unless he's, like, doing something really distinct, or it's a role I've seen him in before. He's just Samuel L. Jackson to me, if that makes sense. So that wasn't really convincing because he's just like tough guy, like tells it like it is kind of person in general. So when you see that on character, I'm like, okay, this is Samuel L. Jackson. Oh wait, no, he's like supposed to be this person. And it just wasn't that funny. Parts of it were, 2020 did suck, and a lot of the commentary was like, the world is messed up even before this, and just the way that people reacted to 2020 is like how messed up the world was already and stuff, which I get. It wasn't too bad, but like I just wouldn't recommend it to people. It just felt like a big waste of time.
I kind of with you. Like, I think it was too soon to like already poke and look and be like, oh, ha ha, like it's satirical but also too real. Like I agree with you. When I was watching it, I was like, oh, ha ha, and then like it's
for sure
too close. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
It's actually a great way for me to bring up my number 4 pick, because my number 4 pick was another Netflix film called The Last Days of American Crime, which is another movie that I feel like is incredibly insensitive, and I feel like the filmmakers were being kind of ignorant, pushing it to make it come out in 2020 with the amount of, not to get into politics, but with the important movements that have been happening during 2020. And the way that this film frames its story is just such stereotypical nonsense. And on top of that, it's directed by Olivia Megaton, who I don't know if either of you know of her, or him, sorry. And he just makes the action sequences completely unwatchable with the amount of quick cut editing that you could probably count off 10 cuts in like 2 seconds. And it just became a mind-numbing experience that for 2.5 hours. So,
oh, 2.5.
Yeah,
I mean,
they were basically trying to cram in 3 graphic novels altogether into one. And I've never read the graphic novels. I simply wanted to go into it because I wanted to punish myself, because I hate Olivia Megaton movies. So I knew I wasn't going to like it. But even with that, such a low bar, I still ended up hating it even more than I expected.
Wow. I can see that. I haven't heard it yet, but I won't go toward it. My number 4, I feel bad saying this, but I'll give some caveats to it. The Impractical Jokers movie is my 4th.
Okay.
Interesting. I forgot that came out last year.
It did. And I love the Impractical Jokers. I've watched them for a very, very long time. Back when it was season 1 and 2, I was watching it, and there was definitely a magic with the group, and like genuine laughter and genuine pranks, and it felt intense. It felt like, oh my gosh. And as they got more popular, I could tell that they were getting too popular, and it was infiltrating the magic of the spontaneity. I was happy to see that they were getting a movie, but I was very scared because they had already kind of turned to that corner of, I don't want to say sellout or commercial, but it's like what you kind of have to do when you get that popular is to reference yourself a lot. Everything's a gut-busting laughter stunt, and it's like really early laughter that makes me like, oh, it's not that funny yet. Don't waste your laughing energy, Sal, for the love of God. But when I watched the movie, there were things I really liked, but the entire experience kind of cringed me a little bit. And it's the kind of same feeling, but not as strong as the Jay and Silent Bob reboot. That came out in 2019, and I thought I watched it in 2020. I was going to put it very high on my worst list because I love Kevin Smith movies as well, and that one also was like it was fan service, but it was sour for me. Like, it didn't feel fun as a fan. It felt like corny. And so that's why Impractical Jokers is on at least my worst 2020 for me, because there were all these stunts they did that I'm like, oh, you could take it farther. It could be even more crazy or more genuine, and it came off a little like flimsy to me. So.
Yeah. Okay, it sucks. That does suck. My friends are huge fans of Impractical Jokers as well. So like they like went and like actually went and saw it in theaters. I think they had kind of the same joke like drives. It's just like they were just like, yeah, it's just them but longer.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I can definitely say that I saw it as well, and while I didn't hate it, I was really disappointed. I am a big fan of Impractical Jokers as well, and it just didn't lend nearly as well as the normal show does.
Right, and I love the little jokes they had, or the fact that the whole plot was surrounding Paula Abdul. I love that, but it just didn't. It's hard to put that energy in a film and expect it to be as good or better than the way the show was when it started. So that's the reason why I put it at my 4th.
I feel that. Well, my 4th isn't like super terrible. It was just more or less disappointing in retrospect because like it was kind of one of those movies where it's like you look at it and you're like, okay, I liked that, but then like later on you're like, that was kind of weird, like bad, like this was bad, right? It's like one of those movies you realize I don't really want to watch this again if I had the choice. And for that, it unfortunately goes to the Happiest Season because I was really looking forward to this.
Oh,
I was really looking forward to this movie, and when I watched it, I did like it. It was very. I'm not a huge rom-com person, especially the one that like hits the it's Christmas and it's a rom-com. I think that what is it? I forget the name. Of course I do. Love Actually. Yeah. I think that is both simultaneously the best and the worst movie ever. It just depends on what part you're at. But yeah, I thought at first I was like, okay, this is really cute. I love the love story, and of course I love Dan Levy.
Yeah.
Let me just say that right now. Dan Levy is one of the best actors out there right now. I love Schitt's Creek, one of my favorite shows. Binge watched that last year too. And his character is great, and a lot of the messages are great. But then later you're like, that isn't a healthy relationship. A lot of the choices that she makes are not great. I don't like Alison Brie outing her sister. I didn't like a lot of bits after, like in retrospect, and it wasn't that well executed in hindsight. And it's just like, they have very first world problems too, if that makes sense, which is weird because it's a movie about a gay relationship. And I'm like, it's still a very hard thing for people to do. I did like the ending. It's very cute. I liked that it was a very cute movie. I just don't think that's why it's high on my bottom list because, again, I didn't see that many movies. But, like, it wasn't, and in the end, like, if I had to watch it again, I guess I would. But, like, there's just nothing there for me anymore. Like, I got a little bit of Dan Levy. Kristen Stewart did an okay job. She's just kind of stood there a lot, which is dumb. She just kind of took what was coming to her, which proud of you, but like also why?
Right. I didn't get
it. Just they don't have a lot of substance, which sucks.
I was meaning to get around to it. A lot of people were excited about it.
Yeah, I was excited about it too, and then it wasn't awesome. Aubrey Plaza is great though. She's just great in everything though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of great actors. They just didn't do a lot with them.
Oh.
Which was disappointing.
I can't comment on it because that's actually a film I did not see this year.
Dang. I beat you to it. Now
all right.
Next Christmas. That's crazy.
Well, during Christmas, I always watch the Christmas classics. Why would I want to watch a new Christmas movie?
Dan Levy's in it. All right, that's it.
All right.
We gotta keep it rolling though.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and go with my number 3 pick, which I feel like I'm entering an abusive relationship with this director because last year he did The Haunting of Sharon Tate, which has the exact same formula as this one, with my number 3 pick, which is The Murder of Nicole Brown Simpson. Both films pretty much take a real-life crime, add a completely unnecessary and highly offensive supernatural element to it, extend the movie somehow to 100 minutes long when it shouldn't even be a short film, and then finally end the movie with a graphic and exploitive depiction of the crime itself. I was so mad for just about every second of this film. It was agonizing to watch, and it made the 100 minute time feel like 3 hours.
So it's like The Dictator but worse because supernatural.
Oh, it's eons worse.
Oh, The Dictator was so bad. Oh, yeah. I mean, okay, this actually is working so nicely. Do you guys want to hear what my 3rd worst movie was?
Yes.
Can you guess if it has to do with the dictator?
No.
The Borat
No, I
subsequent
can't.
movie film.
I don't know.
The Borat movie. The Borat subsequent movie film.
Borat
Ooh.
subsequent movie film.
I guess is what its official title
Yeah,
was.
I think that's what. I haven't seen Borat. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh well,
Oh boy.
I will say that. So it is in there probably in the same reasons why The Dictator is also one of those worst movies for me. I think that it's a kind of humor that when Borat came out, it was so fresh and everyone was quoting it, and it was so funny, gut busting, ridiculous, and just iconic when it came out. Now this humor and this now some people really thought this film was refreshing. They're like, this is the kind of movie we need right now. And for me, I'm like, no, I don't find this funny at all. It was so hard to like listen and watch it because it was just like it's that cringing, but it felt super outdated to me. Like I'm like, I knew this would be funny, much funnier to me in early 2000, but it is not funny. It is like kind of what you're edging to, Evan, with your worst movies is it's offensive. And I get the commentary. It's very smart. It's very granular, but like as a film experience, I'm kind of good with Borat. Like we can, this is an expired humor at the time there's bigger room for other comedies right now. And I really didn't like watching this. It was hard to sit through.
So I feel bad for saying this, but that was actually the hardest I've laughed at a movie all year long. No, it is not.
Oh,
It wasn't on mention.
I will say, made a big splash. A lot of weird stuff came out of that. But yeah, I get it. I can't do second-hand embarrassment. Yeah. So,
right. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, second-hand embarrassment is an exchange of like the commentary that you get from it, and like I'm already aware of what he exposed, so like that's why I'm like, this was useless to me. So that's my favorite.
So my number 3 is actually just going to be an honorable mention because it did not come out in 2020, but it's a very so bad it's good sort of movie. I learned about it from watching a YouTube video. His name's Drew Gooden. He used to be a Viner, but he did a whole video about it. And so he watched it with his girlfriend, and I was like, I wanted to watch this with my boyfriend. So we did. It came out in 2018. We watched it in 2020. It is called Little Italy. It stars Hayden Christensen from Star Wars and Emma, Emma Roberts, I think. She was in AHS and like Scream Queens and stuff. It is a romantic comedy set in Little Italy, Toronto, not New York. And it's just about these two. It's a Romeo and Juliet story about two people from rivaling pizza places that like used to be friends when they were like in high school or like as kids. Emma Roberts went off to like cook in France, and she's back to like do something for her cooking class or something. And Hayden Christensen never left. And he does a really bad Italian accent, like Italian-American accent.
I was actually about to ask, has his acting improved at all?
He's a great actor, it's nice to see him with a character that has a lot of light in him. Like he's really like, hey, yo, like very happy. And it's just a genuinely funny movie, but it does not make it any better than like an actual good movie. It's like it's so bad it's good. And if you need, it's included on Amazon Prime. If you need just like a Saturday, order a pizza because they eat so much pizza or talk about pizza or there's a pizza in the frame so often you will get hungry for it. Just sit down, watch it with your boo. Just watch Little Italy. Watch Hayden Christensen because like I think we all need a little bit of Hayden Christensen in our lives.
It sounds right up my husband's alley. It is now on the list of what the next movies we could see, because that sounds like a movie he would love in terms of so bad it's good. So that's fantastic.
The line that Emma Roberts.
My wife is a big fan of movies that are so bad it's good, so I might actually add that.
Yeah, it's great. There's a line that like Emma Roberts says. She's like, I see why they call it Little Italy because nothing ever changes. And I'm just like, what does that mean? What does that mean? But yeah,
Oh,
that's my number 3. You're not gonna like my number 2, Evan. I can already tell, but we'll get there. So, but
All
yeah.
right. Well, then, and that I guess that cues me up to do my number 2. So let me ask you guys: have either of you sat through any of the 50 Shades of Grey movies?
No.
Oh,
the first one. The
first one. Have you seen
Oh.
all 3 of them? Okay. So I'm alone in this matter, and I really thought that 50 Shades of Grey would be the worst romance movie, if you could even call it a romance
Right.
film, but the worst of that genre. I found something that's
I'm
worse.
ready.
On Netflix, I found a movie called 365 Days,
Yes,
which
I'm so
is
glad.
oddly
Sorry.
enough, that's what it felt like watching. It felt like I took an entire year to watch this movie. So with 50 Shades of Grey, it's kind of like it's ironic with how they're attracted to one another because they don't really have chemistry. So let's go the extra mile in this movie and have our love interest be kidnapped by so-called shining knights in armor and have her force her to be in love with him, and he'll let her go if she doesn't. I was baffled. I was absolutely baffled that someone thought it was a good idea. I feel like that's someone's fetish somewhere.
A notable face in the crowd of actors and actresses? Anybody we'd know?
No, not off the top of my head.
Okay, so this is a cast of unknowns in uncharted territory with 365
I will
days.
say that it also adds like a mob element that has some of the most laughable violence I've seen in a long time. So there is that.
I've heard of this movie. I am big on the YouTube commentary community. Like Drew Gooden, he does a lot of commentary videos. I think her name Amanda the Jedi on YouTube. She did a whole video on it, so I know what you're talking about. I haven't seen it because it sounded bad. Thank you for confirming it.
Do it. Don't do it.
Okay.
So my number 2 could easily be in someone's top 10.
Okay.
But incredibly polarizing film. I hated every second of this movie. I'm thinking of ending things.
Thank you.
Whoa.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hated this movie. But
That's
I did see a movie. I did see a movie worse than this, so it's not in my number 1. And because it has the potential to be someone's like genius, like it could be someone's favorite movie. It could be. That's why it's number 2. Okay. Charlie Kaufman. If you're aware of him as a director or a writer, this is in the same vein. But I haven't watched a movie in such a long time that made me feel so stupid. Like I felt dumb watching it. It was so pretentious, awkward. So if you don't like secondhand embarrassment, do not watch this because it is an hour and a half straight of secondhand embarrassment. And then and it's one of those movies again. I'm like sitting there wanting to so badly to like it and understand it, and I'm just sitting there and I'm checking the time on it. I'm like, it's got to end soon, right? I got to get to some finality, right? And it's like an hour left. 45 minutes left. I'm like, this is awful. And then when it finally ended, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So if you're a movie buff and you like super hyper layered movies, watch it. Otherwise, if you're like an average moviegoer and you want, it's just, I could never recommend something not more to not see. Like, don't.
Now you got me
make a brief comment, and I will say that I think it has exceptional performances, and I love the direction in it. But there's not a single second of the movie that I ever enjoyed or liked at all. It has great elements in it, but I was so unsatisfied and so upset by the end of it.
It was bad from beginning to end. Like, and I like giving benefit of the doubt to a lot of movies to be like, oh, it's just harsh, it's too violent, it's too obscure. This is a movie where I was just grabbing at straws of like, come on, there's got to be something I like. Can I just tell you actually, and it's not going to spoil too much, I hope. My favorite part of the movie was the Robert Zemeckis trailer of the movie that they showed in the diner. That was it was such a bright moment. I was like, oh my god, this is so funny because it is such a Zemeckis movie. And then it started and ended there.
The movie is great, and I'm very interested. I wish it was
Waitress. Loved it. Thought that was fantastic. But yeah, I'm so passionate about how much I don't like it, but there is a worse movie I saw, so it is number 2.
Perfect. Well, my number 2 is also going to be very polarizing, and I know that I don't know if it's in Evan's top 10, but I know it's at least in his top 20. And I gotta just say, it's gotta be The Five Bloods. I couldn't finish that movie, and that's it's probably why it shouldn't be as low. I don't think that it is. I will say I don't think it's fair that it's on my list.
Sure.
But again, I didn't see a lot of movies.
Okay.
And I didn't finish it. So you can just, if you think that this is a dumb opinion, I don't blame you. But I was so bored. I couldn't finish it. It got gory, and I didn't like it. Which I get it. They're in a Vietnam thing. Things are gonna happen, but I couldn't finish it. Who's the guy? The guy that plays the son. He's in Lovecraft Country. He's a great actor. That guy's a great actor, and he was good in this movie. I loved him more in like Lovecraft Country, and of course Chadwick Boseman. Amazing actor, but he's been, like, I watched it because he was in it. I was having like a marathon because, you know, he had just passed away. Rest in peace. Yeah. But like I couldn't he's barely in it, so there was no reason. If you wasn't get to see
him, then it would be a disappointing movie.
Yeah, that's why I was a little bit.
I definitely will say that I disagree, but I can totally understand why someone would view that way. But I do hope that the one guy gets the nomination for Best Supporting Actor because he freaking deserves it. It was my favorite performance of the year.
Like,
I'm assuming the dad, right?
Right.
I agree with you for sure.
Yeah. The acting's good. The movie itself is just boring as heck. I couldn't it's such an interesting premise. Literal treasure hunt, going back to the glory that they had back in war times. Like, the boys are getting back together again in honor of their friend. But this was so lame. There's just a bunch of old guys just like walking around and yelling at each other. And I'm like, I can't finish this. I watched this for Chadwick. He's not in it that much. And I haven't seen Rooney's Black Bottom yet. But he's like in that. And I think I'm going to watch that to try to get what I want. But like,
I mentioned actually that in my honorable mentions later is Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. The movie itself is pretty okay, but Chadwick Boseman's performance could not have been any better. So he to me is like he's like a high contender for Best Actor, based on Ma Rainey's Black Bottom performance.
Because he's great, and the acting is great. But the story's just not there for me. And like it got a little bit interesting but I'm like, I don't want to know how this ends.
Nice.
I don't care that much. So that's why it's my number 2 worst. There was a movie that I did finish and I was just like, that sucked. It's not a truly terrible movie, and I'm sure it's a good film to most people, kind of like I'm Thinking of Ending Things. But it didn't do anything for me. But yeah, that's my number 2.
We might have.
All right, well. Yeah, we might have to go on for longer than this, but I'm enjoying this.
Fine. We can go for a little over an hour.
Yeah. All right, so that does bring me to my number 1 pick. So I'm going to get on my high. Yeah, so I'm going to get my high horse for a second. This film technically came out in 2019 in festivals, but it did become available in 2020. Okay. So it is a film called Veronica. And it is a horror and Veronica
with a V.
Yes.
Okay.
It is a horror anthology that is the most unfinished, unprofessional, and stupid movie that I've ever had to pay to see.
Something you did not sell this well because I really want to see it now. Just keep going.
I thought, but going into it, that it was going to be a case of it's so bad it's good.
Yeah.
It's not. If it's not boring, then it's unfinished. There are scenes in the film. There's 2 scenes in the film that I can point out. There's one where you can actually see someone holding a boom mic in the background. And there's also a scene where the audio is so bad that you can actually hear the people in the background talking about the movie as it's being filmed.
Gosh.
It's unfinished. How the hell did this actually make it past the people, the editors? It's not just the worst movie I saw in 2020. It's probably my top 10 worst movies I've ever seen in my life. I hated every second of it.
That's absolutely fair. And if I had seen it, would probably have also wedged it in there myself. So
now, I know that you said not. You're definitely gonna say not to, but like, I need to see this to believe this.
No, I know. I completely agree. So my least favorite movie, and it's actually the last movie I saw, or I saw it in theaters recently, safely, with a group, and Wonder Woman 1984 was definitely my least favorite. 1000%. Now I'll give the big caveat and disclaimer that I'm not a comic book DC Marvel movie watcher. Like, I saw a few, but I am not following. I'm not chomping at the bit. That is not my flavor of movies. But this movie, the poster looked fun. It was like vibrant colors, and I was like, I haven't been in a theater so long. I can't wait to sit in a theater and just see something vivid, and at the most I'll have that, and I can't be disappointed, even though I heard crazy, terrible things. And oh my God, it was worse than I had anticipated, in many regards. I also didn't even see the first Wonder Woman, and I was worried that it was needed. No, because I figured out what happened at the first one.
I will say
and
that.
And then I'm like, oh,
yeah.
It was such bad acting. The plot was wherever, and it was 2.5 hours, and I'm like, what is happening? It was so surreal. In the theater, someone fell asleep and was snoring while watching it. A baby cried and pooped in the front row while watching it as well. It was just a very surreal experience. I just would not recommend it. I don't even know, maybe Kristen Wiig, but at the same time, I was so focused on how bad her hair was, and I know that partial of that was 80s, but like, no, like, there were so many things it was not a fun time. And now that I'm talking about it, I actually probably would have stuck on thinking of ending things worse than Wonder Woman 1984, but the feeling I had leaving the theater was very like, wow, that wasn't good feeling.
I will say, if I can make a quick comment, I certainly don't hate it as much as you, but I totally understand where you're coming from. It is a movie that has gotten progressively worse the more and more I think about it, and I certainly wouldn't recommend it. Like, I thought it was just mediocre when I first saw it, and the more I think about it, the less I like it.
Absolutely that. Like, it's grabbing straws of what I could like about it. And
I'm going to save my thoughts for later for no particular reason. But Liz, I will explain more why it's not in my bottom 5 when we get there, though. But I won't say it's a perfect movie. I will say I also am getting that feeling of the more I think about it, the worse it like gets, or like, that shouldn't have happened, or that doesn't make sense. But like, I'm a huge fan of Marvel. Not DC, I won't lie, but I will say they came out with movies last year, and there's like at least 2 DC movies in my top 10. So like, we'll see what happens when we get there. But mine, like, I didn't see a lot of bad movies this year. I'm not gonna lie. That's why there are a couple of good ones in here. But this one was just objectively not awesome. I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't this. I was watching it mostly because I knew the actors in it. The premise seemed okay and interesting, and I was like, maybe they could do something with this. And that movie is another Netflix original, Enola Holmes. Starring Millie Bobby Brown. Again, I'm a huge fan of Stranger Things. Henry Cavill, or however you pronounce his last name, who is Superman. That other guy who's British. I forget what he's in. He plays Finnick in the Hunger Games. That's what I know him from. And Helena Rodham Carter, who's barely in it. But yeah, and it was dumb. I think that I didn't like it mostly because it was not it's not for me. It's probably for some 15, 16-year-old girl that kind of likes Stranger Things and likes Millie Bobby Brown type characters. And it's very like girl powery, which I love. I love girl power. Awesome. But like, it's just not, it was boring. It was very boring. I don't even remember most of the plot. The plot's stupid. It goes from one thing to another. I don't really care about why she's looking for her mom, other than the fact that she's an unsupervised minor. Sherlock, all the guys that are like the two guys that are like the main people that I know who are literally Sherlock Holmes. One of them's like the Sherlock Holmes. He's barely in it. He barely does any detectiving.
Yep.
She doesn't really do some of the stuff is clever in it. I will give it that. But like, I just don't care. I don't give a crap about any of the things that are happening right now. I could have gone my whole life without seeing this. No memes have come out of it, which means it wasn't even good enough to me.
No memes. And what even?
That's how you measure the quality of a film. If it's memeable.
If it's like, at least with Wonder Woman. At least with Wonder Woman.
Did it actually?
I'm seeing memes and commentary. Nobody talked about this movie. You guys were like, "Oh, right!" Like when I mentioned it.
It's like,
it wasn't.
Yeah, that film happened.
Yeah, it wasn't worth my time, and that is why it is number 1 on my worst films of 2020. Didn't even watch a lot, and honestly, this is the most it's not even bad. It's just boring, and don't waste your time. All right, cool.
So should we go ahead and jump right in to our best?
Jump into the top 10.
Now we're gonna save honorable mentions until the end.
If you wanted, now we can, but we can definitely.
Okay. Well, I know that some people are gonna get pissy with me because if I don't mention these movies because they are on my top 20s because I saw enough films because I thought I would be okay with doing a top 20 list. A couple that didn't quite make my top 10 is Defy Bloods, Promising Young Woman, Tenets, First Cow, which I don't think a whole lot of people have heard about, Birds of Prey, American Murder, a comedy called Extraordinary, and a film on Amazon Prime called 7500. So those are all like honorable mentions for me.
I would like to comment on one of your honorable mentions, Tenet, because I think that was probably one of the most buzzworthy movies that came out last year. I saw it, and it is very well done. It's high quality. It's, Christopher Nolan did put a lot of cool. It was sleek. It was cool looking. Could not follow the plot or even the dialogue even as well. It was very, very rough. So because of that, it kind of canceled each other out for me. Like, not good enough to be listed in the top 10, but not so bad that I got mad. Like, they just sort of meh into each other. Like, the entire time I watched it, I was like, I'd much rather watch Inception for the 10th, 12th, or 11th time over again. So I'm with you on Tenet being honorable mention in just the respect of, no, it did not even come close to expectations, but it wasn't horrible. It could have been a lot worse.
I mean, it personally met my expectations. I simply just wanted to be amazed and entertained and visually wowed, and it met that requirement. Also, I watched it again with subtitles on, which actually enhanced the experience for me quite a bit, so that's probably why. But I don't want to drone on too long. My number 10 pick was the Netflix.
Sorry, I was just gonna.
Sorry,
are we
what?
doing honorable mention?
Yeah, do you want me
I was gonna.
First?
Cool. Well, how about this? Why don't you list your 5 to 10, and then just talk about them individually. And then we can move on to Maggie and then me, and then we'll do our top 5s individually. Does that sound good?
Okay, yeah. Okay. So go from 10 to 5?
Yeah, 10 to 5, and then Maggie goes, and then I'll go, and then we'll do the thing.
All right, so name them and then briefly talk about them?
Yeah, just do that, and then we'll do Maggie, just so we can do like the top 5 and really focus on that. Does that make sense?
Okay,
Sorry.
yeah, we'll keep,
Sorry,
we'll
I'm
keep the
switching
train
it up
rolling.
on you.
All right. Yeah, my number 10 pick is The Trial of Chicago 7. Love Aaron Sorkin. I think he's a terrific director. He also did Molly's Game back in 2017. Tremendously good cast. I love the social commentary. I'm also a sucker for courtroom dramas. This film sucked me in, and if anything, I wanted it to keep going longer and longer. My number 9 pick is Possessor, directed by Brandon Cohenberg, who, if you don't know him, is David Cohenberg's son. And he's known for messed up movies, and this film is definitely messed up. It is a fantastic sci-fi thriller with some of the most violent and messed up imagery that I've seen in a very long time, but it also has a lot of thought-provoking themes. I cannot recommend it enough. My number 8 pick is Soul. Pixar is back, baby. Loved it so much. Honestly, in my top, definitely my top 10, maybe my top 5 Pixar films. Absolutely beautiful animation, wonderful themes of life and death. I absolutely loved it. It blew me away. My number 7 film no one's going to hear about, Bacurau, which was a Brazilian French film that I can definitely say was the most unpredictable film that I saw all year long. If you do plan on watching it, do not watch the trailer. Just simply watch it. You will not see what's coming. Number 6 pick is The Vast of Night, which was the directorial debut of Andrew Patterson, which is on Amazon Prime. Captured the feeling of a almost like Twilight Zone vibe to it, with amazing camera work and a constantly increasing feeling of paranoia in the atmosphere, even though it does very little science fiction wise, and I can't recommend it enough.
Okay. You can do your
I might need you to send me in a text the name of that Brazilian French movie, because that sounds like right up my alley of watching movies that are unexpected.
It does have it is very gory, by the way, just as a heads up.
No, that's fine. As long as you warned me,
yeah.
then I'm all right. Really good picks. Should I do my bottom 5 too?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, do that. You can do your honorable mentions too if you want.
I had a few. Robin's Wish was in one of my honorable mentions.
Yes.
I loved hearing about. Now, granted, it's a little controversial because I was kind of surprised to see that his kids did not give their interviews or commentaries, and I think it has to do with some family disputes. So, as long as you go in, I do think it's still a genuine documentary that I did learn a lot about. So, still worth watching and seeing. Time is in there. Time was also a good documentary, but it was so natural that it just did not edge into my top 10. It was close, but not there really. His House is also in my honorable mention from Netflix. Very spooky, but pretty good. Like, it was just very vivid to watch. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom is also honorable mention, but only because I would want people to see it to see Chadwick Boseman play the part. I just was so blown away by his performance, and it's really making him shine so bright. So I would see it for that, but do not. It's by August Wilson, the guy who did Fences. So if you liked Fences, the play and the movie, then this is a continuation of tone and style. So it's also very short. So expect to finish it and think, wow, that was really short. So going into my number 10 best movie was Bill and Ted Face the Music. For me, do I think it cinematically is impressive? No, but I think from a trilogy standpoint and from the moment it came out, it was so needed for me and my friends and my family. Like, we watched it and it was such a huge smile on our faces, and we had such an amazing experience watching it. And it was just, I don't think I've watched any movie this year more than that movie. Watched it over and over again. It was just fun. So that's why it's definitely in my top 10. Number 9 is The Social Dilemma. Now, Social Dilemma has extremely corny moments and can be a little kitschy. Like, oh, come on, did they really, do that? However, I think it's one of those documentaries that you have to watch the whole thing from beginning to end and then draw a conclusion. Because I think I was very impressed with how, in my opinion, unbiased. Like, it is cautionary, but it also gives you tools to feel like there's some semblance of control in the social dilemma, or that you can do something about this. If you just watch the first hour and leave, you'll be very scared, but you have to just watch the whole thing and you'll feel so much better, or feel like we're all on the same page about it. So hokey scenes, but overall very impressed with the whole package of it. Number 8 for me was The Invisible Man. I thought it was refreshing. And to be honest, I don't think I've actually watched the original Invisible Man. So I don't know how much of this is a remake and how much of this is like just a current retelling of it. But the main actress, her name always escapes me because I've seen her in so many things, but I actually never grabbed her name and I feel so bad about it. She was fantastic in it. And it was very, very well done. And it was gripping and it was really fun to watch. 7 and 6 are both documentaries. I'm very surprised how many documentaries are in this, but it was just a very big year for me to watch a bunch of documentaries. 7 is The Last Blockbuster. Had a very fun time watching that, but it's because, you know, so I'm 30, so The Last Blockbuster hit me in all the right spots nostalgia-wise, and there is some level of suspense with it. You'll know when you watch it. And I thought they did a very, very wholesome job of capturing the energy, or at least what it meant and how it feels and what the experience is like and what it means now to have an experience that is completely different than what Blockbuster experience was like. So I thought it was an adorable, wholesome, very nice documentary. Adorable. Speaking of adorable, number 6 is Dick Johnson is Dead. I watched it last night, and that was a movie I could not stop laughing, like big booming laughing, because it's a very touching documentary of a daughter and a father duo, and the father is kind of on the edge of death, and to face the concept of death head on, the filmmaker daughter's like, how about we just film you die in multiple ways so that if and when you die, it'll be easier to like face it, because we have kind of added so much humor and lightheartedness to it. And it's like stunt people and it's so funny and it's so adorable, and it's just my heart exploded watching it. I think it is something incredibly special, and it's on Netflix for free. But that one I had to include it in my top 10 just because I just was so, and it's kind of similar to Soul, where it's like you have good conversations and commentary in the movie about death and how you feel about disease and mortality and memories in your family. And so it was just so special. I really loved Dick Johnson is Dead. So.
That one's on my list, and I really want to watch it. And yeah, a lot of it. And you know what, Maggie? You convinced me to change one of my top 10s to an honorable mention, and a movie I hadn't even thought of until you kept talking about documentaries, because I forgot I watched it, but I liked it a lot more than my top 10. So I'm going to mention that now. So I guess the one that I was going to move to, that I'm going to move, is the Lego Holiday Special. Yes, that was in my top 10. Don't judge me. It was adorable, and it was fun, and it was cute. If you couldn't tell, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. This is mine. This is no one else's. My sister got this for me. It's very great. Anything Lego anything media is hilarious and funny and clever with the way that they animate or they make video games, because they have to do it within the Lego system. So it's very cute. And if you've never heard of the actual Star Wars Holiday Special, like the Lego Star Wars Holiday, it's bad, but I do love how they kind of kept Life Day canon, and I like how it's like Christmas, so it's very cute and fun, and I thought the story was funny because they're going through time and things like that. So yeah, it was fun. My other honorable mentions, Promising Young Woman is only, let me iterate this is only an honorable mention because I watched it for the first time last night and not in 2020. If I had watched it last year, if I felt comfortable enough to go to the theaters, this would be my number 1 film. It was amazing.
Actually,
it was gorgeous.
Because I didn't know if it was movies released in 2020 or movies we saw in 2020, so
It was gorgeous. I thought that it was great that the furniture was old, kind of representing Yeah, I guess in my mind it was representing that even though in this modern age we are still kind of in a repressed state of how we date and court people and how it's still super messed up and backwards. I loved Alison Brie in this because she usually only plays like three kinds of characters, and she was like a different person in this, which was nice because she's either uppity person or uppity housewife, and this was just a woman that was very concerned and panic, and or she's the one girl in like in BoJack Horseman, but whatever. She was great in this. I loved the character of Cassie and the woman that portrayed her. Amazing. One of my favorite movie characters ever. The plot was amazing. The ending alone is why you should watch this movie.
Yep.
And it's just a great story. The director was amazing. I loved the use of music.
Yeah.
The Toxic Violin cover was great.
Yes.
Everything. Watch Promising Young Woman. That is my biggest takeaway from this video. Please watch it. It's so good. Yeah, other ones that were the only rest of my honorable mentions are movies that are definitely going to show my age because I had never seen them before, but I loved watching them in 2020. My Cousin Benny was great. The Mask was great, and then the rest are just TV shows that you need to watch because TV's kind of my forte. Lovecraft Country, amazing, super great story, amazing special effects. Very good commentary for today's day and age. I'm reading the book right now. It's really good. It's just great television. You need to watch it. The Queen's Gambit, probably my favorite TV show of last year and one of the best of all time. Great storytelling. It's like it just shouldn't be that exciting, but it is, and it's great. And the style is gorgeous, and I love it. And then the second season of The Boys isn't as good as the rest of the stuff, but it's a great show. And again, the commentary, it's very topical and something that people need to watch right now. And they only got review bombed because it was out weekly, but now like I definitely have learned within the last year the effect of the slow burn and how you need that sort of periodical thing, especially with a show like WandaVision or like The Boys or things like that, and Lovecraft Country as well. But yeah, so my new number 10 is the HBO documentary Showbiz Kids. That was really interesting for me because I had literally I had gone to the drive-in earlier last year, and watched E.T. again. And watching that as an adult was really interesting for me because as a kid I just like didn't. It was one of those movies I didn't really pay attention to, but just watching the guy who played Elliot, just all of these different child actors, the woman who plays Matilda, just it's a very interesting documentary about a thing that people don't really talk about a lot. It's just a very interesting perspective, I guess. And I just liked it a lot. It was one of those documentaries that actually grabbed my attention. Number 9 is The Prom. It wasn't a good movie necessarily, but I had a lot of fun with it, if that makes sense. It was very bright and colorful, and yeah, it was fun. James Corden's performance in it is atrocious. It is bad, but if you look past that, Nicole Kidman is great, and her character's great, and it's adorable. Just the main story is very cute. It's all very, and I love musicals, and seeing this, it was very good. Andrew Rannells is wonderful. I love him in everything he's in, and I'm so glad he's doing more TV and movie stuff. So yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. Just ignore James Corden, like just skip him whenever he's on screen. Number 8 is Wonder Woman 1985. This is why I'm a huge fan of Wonder Woman. I love the character. I honestly love Gal Gadot's like kind of portrayal of it. I did have a lot of problems with the movie, but a lot of it, I loved how campy it was. It felt like they took a DC comic from the 80s and they just kind of put it on screen because it was very colorful. It was a lot of some of it doesn't make sense, but like in comics, sometimes it's just going to be very stupid plots that ooh, magic thing, it's evil, good guys, bad guys. But I love Pedro Pascal. Chris Pine was great. Kristen Wiig is a great actress. I really liked seeing her as like an action person instead of just comedy. It was stupid in all the best ways. I like how they incorporated the invisible jet somehow. My biggest problems are definitely the love story was definitely unnecessary. And what was the other one? crap. The whole American Ninja Warrior intro was really bad, and it took way too long. It was so unnecessary. Like, you could have done that in like 5 minutes. I would have gotten the point. Cool. Now it's 1984. It's just really just so tedious. But yeah, number 7 is Sonic the Hedgehog. It was the last movie I saw in theaters.
Ooh.
It was really fun. It was really cute. Jim Carrey was in it. Like, it's just a good movie to see with your family and your kids, or on Valentine's Day with like a triple date, like I did. But it's just fun for anyone who's a fan of the character. Ben Schwartz did a great job as as Sonic, and the animation's really good. Just and the whole like the nostalgia piano, as I think it's called, like of just like Green Hill theme, like that was just a great detail that they added in. It's campy, but like it's fun. So like watch it, because like movies are supposed to be fun. And then my number 6 is the HBO Max original Pregnant, because honestly the story itself is just, first of all, and then something that people need to watch, and it's just a really cute girls trip buddy comedy teen movie that I think I needed at the time, like when I watched, kind of like with Bill and Ted. Like I needed to see. It made me happy. It made me feel like good emotions. It was fun. But when it needed to be real and serious, it did it really well. And a lot of my problems with teen movies is that I don't think, as I have a younger teenage sister, so I'm not hip with the kids, but I know what they act like. And this is one of those, like, down from style, slang, the way they do their hair, it felt very genuine to what a 2020 teenager would act and dress like. And I think that's like I don't like it when it's like a parody of itself whenever somebody tries to make a character like that, but this felt very authentic, which I appreciated. But yeah, that's that. So I guess we'll go a little bit more in depth with our top 5s. But yeah, thanks for listening. Do you guys have any thoughts on that? I kind of just bleh.
I completely forgot about Sonic. I almost wish I put that in my viewing, because my favorite thing about Sonic was when the poster came out and showed, or the trailer, and the way it was animated. There was such a huge grotesque reaction of, there's no way that looks anything like Sonic. Here's some quick things you could do, and they completely took the fans' feedback and said, hold on, and applied it. So that's something that's unheard of in studios. So like, I thought that was so appreciative, and I meant to see it, but I hadn't seen it yet. So thanks for reminding me on that. I really want to see it.
I mean, between Detective Pikachu and Sonic the Hedgehog, I couldn't decide what I think is the better video game film, but those are the 2 video game movies that I actually think are good. So that alone is saying a lot.
I really enjoyed Detective Pikachu too. I was pleasantly surprised.
Okay, so I might as well get into my number 5. One of you already mentioned it, so I won't talk about it too long. Number 5 for me is The Invisible Man. Leigh Whannell directed the absolute crap out of this film. I love him. I think he's a great upcoming talent. And the movie functions on multiple levels. It's not only a smart and legitimately scary horror film with lots of tension and suspense, but I also think it functions really well as an examination of abusive relationships and the impact of domestic violence. So the fact that it's both a smart horror film but also an entertaining one just blew me in my mind, and I absolutely loved it.
I would agree that I was surprised at the directions they took, because there were so many opportunities for it to get to cliche or predictable, and they didn't, and I thought that was nice. We're doing the roundtable.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. 5.
So you're next.
So this was already mentioned. So number 5 for me was The Trial of the Chicago 7. The biggest reason was that Aaron Sorkin wrote the screenplay, and I forgot how much I loved his screenwriting. It was delicious. It was like, it felt so good. And then Sacha Baron Cohen in The Trial of the Chicago 7 was also a huge surprise to me. His performance was really, really believable, and I was so intrigued about the true story of the character he was playing. So like, The Trial of the Chicago 7 was a great movie in which it was entertaining to watch on its own, but it begged me to do my research and look at what actually was there, and made me want to dive deeper. So it was very inspiring. It was one of those, I watched it really early and forgot it came out in 2020. So it had to be in my top 5. I was just impressed.
So mine was also already mentioned before, and that's Bill and Ted 3. Kind of like how what Maggie said, it did come out at like a perfect time for me. It was one of the few movies that came out in drive-ins, which was like the only kind of movie theater I went to, which is great because I love drive-in theaters. But it was just great. It was funny. It was campy. I loved Billy and Teddy, the little daughter characters. I loved the actresses before. Keanu Reeves is just great. It was it was definitely a film that we needed right now. I'm a huge fan of Bill and Ted 1 and 2. I have the first one on Blu-ray. Be excellent to each other is like my philosophy of life. It is so it's funny. I'm not gonna say like it's as good as the first two, but like nothing. I think I hyped it up a little too much in my brain, and nothing really ever is as good as like the originals. But this was obviously not a cash grab like a lot of the reboots and the sequels are. This was something that it felt like genuine and like an actual story was there. And just watching them do a bunch of time hijinks it's always so entertaining to see. And it's definitely something that we are just finding a way to unite the world is something that I think we all needed in 2020. So that's why it's my number 5. It's really great.
All right, so moving right along, my number 4 pick is Vivarium. I don't think either of you have probably heard of it.
I've heard of it.
Oh, you have? Okay. I'm a big fan of like really weird and abstract films. My favorite film of 2019 was The Lighthouse, which blew me away. I absolutely long for films to just like completely surprise me on every level, and this film just kept throwing weird twist after wacky image at me, and I just love the open-endedness of it. I think it can be interpreted in multiple ways. Another thing that I love about cinema, and plus it actually gave me some very surreal laughs, which I definitely didn't expect. So if you love weird abstract cinema and also kind of like having a 90 to 100 minute episode of The Twilight Zone, then yeah, check it out.
I want to watch it, or I wanted to watch it, but I cannot do horror. I just can't, like in general.
I wouldn't call it scary. It definitely has some creepy and chilling stuff about it, but I wouldn't call it scary.
I looked at it though, I was like, I couldn't do that. I just couldn't.
I would not recommend His House then, because I think it does get into a horror mode, so don't watch His House. My number 4 was already mentioned in your worst. I had The Five Bloods as my number 4.
Interesting.
Nice.
Now,
Nice.
my reasoning was that a lot of the movies I was watching in 2020 were fine, they were good, but I felt myself putting a filter on them because of 2020. Thinking like, oh, this is good, and for what it's worth and for what came out in that year, it sufficed. The Five Bloods for me though was actually a movie. Now I'm very familiar with like Spike Lee's style. Like I loved BlacKkKlansman, and I think The Five Bloods hit the same tempo of like showing real clips of history and here's the story. And I loved the soundtrack. I loved what like the a cappella version of Marvin Gaye singing in so many scenes. I was gripped. I know you were bored, Rachel, but I was very like I felt at home, or like there was a Quentin Tarantino, Spike Lee-esque kind of adventure, but it goes crazy fast, and it's yes, a little offensive sometimes, but it's real. It felt like it was real. Like I know these characters. I've seen these people in my real life. I know where they're coming from, and I thought the commentary was fantastic on the kind of things that Vietnam or even veterans experience coming home and how they feel in the country. So it felt like like a very genuine Oscar bevied movie, but in comparison to Spike Lee's repertoire, I don't think it's his top tier stuff. So it might suffer the same feeling I had about The Irishman for Martin Scorsese, which is, yeah, this has Oscar written all over it, but this is nowhere near as good as your other stuff. Like this, you know, and there definitely were some things in Five Bloods where like I saw Chadwick was in it and I was like, awesome, but I was very disappointed in how much he was in there, and I don't know how much of it overlapped with they were still filming when he passed, or was it complete when and before he passed. If I think it was done before he passed, and in that case, I think it was a waste of his talent. They should have done a lot more with him. But overall, I actually really enjoyed The Five Bloods. That's why it's number 4 for me.
All right. So, like I said before, there were 2 DC films in my top 10, and this is the second one of the last couple of movies I got to see in theaters, and that is Birds of Prey, or the fabulous emancipation of Harley Quinn. Once again, it's just one of those like feel-good girl, not really feel-good, honestly, actually. It's very girl powery, which is in the best way, though, because these women all have your own very interesting characters and personalities.
Right.
You bring them together, and they're a very cool squad that like I very much enjoyed. Harley Quinn was this 2020 for me, if I'm acting on a personal level, was the year that I realized I'm a Batman fan, which is weird because I'm very much more on the Marvel side. Hadn't really done a lot of like I don't read comic books that much.
Right.
It's and if I do, it's Marvel. But I played a bunch of the Arkham games with my boyfriend. I watched for him the first time the Dark Knight trilogy, for me like the second or third time because it's really good. And I watched the Harley Quinn show. That's just a great show, by the way. I should have put that in my honorable mentions. It's great. But I've never seen Suicide Squad. I've seen a good number of the DC extended universe. Still haven't seen. I'm waiting for the Snyder cut for Justice League because I haven't seen that yet. But I did see one.
Probably a good idea.
Yep, Suicide Squad.
I've seen all of the Wonder Woman movies.
I could not finish it.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the new Suicide Squad, which is going to be totally different. Peter Capaldi's in it. The Doctor. I'm so excited. The old Doctor. She's yeah. But yeah, I became a Batman fan, or at least a fan of like all of the different stuff. Harley Quinn was a huge character that I just kind of loved and enjoy now. And watching the fabulous emancipation of Harley Quinn kind of sealed that for me because I think that Margot Robbie just does a great job and has so much fun with this character. Because in the end, this movie is just about her trying to get like a breakfast sandwich. Not totally. Of course, there's stuff that happens in between that, but she really just wants that sandwich and stuff that she kind of just gets pulled in. I think it does just a fun job. I thought the action scenes were really fun and interesting. Especially the one where she like is at the police station. I thought that one that was very clever. I liked her on roller skates. I thought the little kid character was really fun. Huntress is probably my favorite. I forget the actress's name. She was Ramona Flowers in Scott Pilgrim, but she was probably my favorite out of the bunch. I just had a lot of fun. I was very engaged watching this movie. It was very good time. The action was great. The story was a little bit more realistic and understandable and interesting than the other superhero movie on this list. It was cute at points, but I loved the costume design too. There was just a lot of good going on with it, and I would definitely recommend it to people that like want to get into some of the better DC movies because it's one of the better ones out there. Honestly, I'm just gonna be on like Marvel movies, in my opinion, are just kind of better, and a lot of the stuff DC's are just a little bit too dark. I think they're getting better, but this is one of the reasons why it is getting better.
Okay. All right, so my number 3 is definitely something that neither of you have heard of, I hope. And that is a movie called Beasts Clawing at Straws, which is a South Korean film, which I rented from the Nightlight in downtown Akron. The way that I described it in my review was it's a combination of some of my favorite directors. It's like if you took Bong Joon-ho, Quentin Tarantino, and the Coen brothers and just took all the best elements that they offer to any movie and just run wild with it.
Wow.
It kind of reminded me of Pulp Fiction in a sort of MacGuffin way of the whole film is centered around one thing, but honestly, it's the most amount of fun that I had watching a movie all year long, because I was completely invested. Plus, I just love nonlinear storytelling. And the fact that I completely came across it by surprise just made it all the better, because I don't think that a lot of people are appreciating it. And I think that's well worth watching.
I'll definitely hit that up later from you, because that also sounds like right up my alley to give it a shot. But you're right. I had not heard of it. I was ready to like prove you wrong. I was like, oh, come on. No, I might. No. My number 3 is Onward. That for me, Pixar-wise, blew my mind. Now, I had different experiences. So I think Soul was great. I think Soul was solid. It did not rock my world like it did for a lot of people. And I went in with expectations that people had told me, I know, Evan. No, but it's true. It's one of those that I know it hit well with a lot of people, and I actually, the ending for me was like, oh really? I mean, yeah, but, and then that's how it felt for me. Onward was a completely different experience for me. I knew nothing. I saw the poster, the trailer was so vague. I was like, I don't really want to see this, but I ended up watching it, and it was so wonderful, because it's a brother's story. It's a it's like a, so I relate, because I have my in terms of parents and them passing and early, like I kind of relate, and that could be like a biased reason why, like for me, this movie was so did such a good job of putting an adventure, putting something social commentary, putting something wholesome. The focus on what matters kind of aspect of don't wish or hope for something that's semi-intangible, like you have what is needed right there in front of you kind of attitude. And it's one of those Pixar movies that at the end of it, I just was so beautiful to me, and it's one of those that I'm like, since watching it, told everybody to see. I'm like, please, if you haven't seen Onward, go see Onward. And I know that's what people did with Soul. So I think if I had to pick a Pixar movie to shout from the rooftop that I loved in 2020, I have to pick Onward, because I think it is in a completely underrated. Now, it came out in a time where I think it was difficult for it to be marketed well, so I think it suffered from that. But once you see it, oh man, I want to go see it tonight. Like I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it's great. I had a Pixar marathon back when I moved into this apartment last year. Just made a bunch of like food that went with the movies and stuff. Didn't get to Onward, but I have seen it, and I thought it was great. I didn't include it in my list because I just wanted to make movies that like came out in 2020 and stuff, and like that was the only reason why. That's why Parasite isn't on here, and all of that stuff.
Is also not on here. I know I watched it in 2020, and I know that was incredible, but like because it was recognized, I'm also treating this list similarly of, they haven't been touched by the Academy Awards. Maybe they will be, but I did not include movies that were already recognized in the year that was capsulated by Oscars, or else 1917. I would have definitely been
So last year, I'm kidding. Kathy, I agree that I liked the LARP aspect of Onward. I just thought it was cute because I love fantasy, and it's nerd stuff is like very in right now. So them like kind of doing nerd stuff in a fantasy world was kind of cute. My my top 3 are gonna be very existential, like not even that hard existential, but in my case, I think that would think about. Okay. They're very makes you think about life as you know it, and I guess my number 2 isn't like that into it, but my number 3 is Palm Springs. Yeah, I liked it a lot. I love Andy Samberg. I love the actress too, but I forget her name. She was the housewife in Death to 2020, and she was in Black Mirror. I forget her name. She's a great actress. She was in Garfield too, I think. That was a long time ago. But whatever.
We don't talk about that.
We don't have to talk about that. But I'm thinking, Palm Springs. I love the tropes but making them better. It's the whole Groundhog Day thing, but it's very much clearly what anybody else would probably do in a situation like that, especially of the day after I have done crappy thing, and now I have to keep living with the after effects of what I've like that crappy thing that I did. It's very interesting seeing it from the perspective of somebody who's been doing this for literally forever, and somebody who's very new to it, and them bonding over it, and them learning about things in each other and just kind of life throughout it. And then eventually people like just trying to find a way out. And that bit where Andy Samberg's just kind of on his own and with the guy that he like kind of accidentally put in this situation was very interesting. I liked that his perspective on life, I guess. It was a very interesting concept. It was very funny at some points. I don't know what was up with those dinosaurs. And that's still something I'm like, that was weird, right? Like they never talked about, like they never explained that, but I was like, I guess they went in the cave. That's not how the cave works. And I'm not gonna think about this right now. But it was very good. It was good at romance, thinking about life, thinking about parallel dimensional theories and the Groundhog's Day kind of effect, righting wrongs that you've made and learning to live with that and the mistakes that you've made and trying to rectify it. And yeah, it was an interesting film that I think about a lot. I think Andy Samberg's great in it. If you haven't checked it out, it's like a Hulu original. It's like the Lonely Island films. They're great. And it's surprisingly serious but lighthearted, I guess. But it was a good movie. It was probably one of the best movies I watched, which is why it's my number 3.
I was this close to watching it before this review. I saw people talk about it, and they said, "Oh, it's way better." Like it exceeded people's expectations, and so it's definitely on my list to watch. But it just missed my grip. I almost saw it.
I get it.
Certainly one of the most creative comedies that I saw last year, although not quite the funniest, but seriously one of the better ones. All right, so my number 2 pick, I feel very weird for putting it this high up, but it just really struck a chord with me, and that is Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, which was a very quiet, somber, and serious drama that I saw earlier in the year, which really wowed me simply because I'm a big sucker for movies that feel real. Like I'm a fly on the wall watching real people deal with real situations, and that's what completely and fully engaged me with this experience. That I was following this woman going through a very tough choice. By the way, it's a hot button topic that the movie deals with abortion, but could have been very dangerous for the movie, but it never takes a side with it. It doesn't condone the actions that she does, but it also doesn't look down upon the character for doing it either. And it frankly has my favorite performance from a woman I've seen all year long, from Eliza Hittman. From Sydney Flanagan. I think she was magnificent in the film.
I did see this before watching, and I agree with you on the tempo with it. Like it felt almost too real to me, like because the mundanity of the characters and how they were presenting themselves. Like I guess I was expecting a little more like personality or drama or something. Like I wanted something else, but it was very matter of fact in the story delivery. And there was only one moment that I actually felt like a kernel of like a good of story or plot or performance, and they left it at face value. They just moved on to the next. So like it was just a brief, and you didn't get to know more. And it was a very like a sequential, like this is exactly what happens. And that was the only reason for me why it wasn't in my top 10. But I completely see why you put it in your top 2, because it does take a topic so gray, right? But it's very potent. And did a good job of presenting it. I agree, but that's why it wasn't anywhere. But I see why it was in your 2. My two was already mentioned, Promising Young Woman. Literally photo finish into this call, watched it because it's $20 to watch it right now.
It was worth every penny for me.
Worth every penny. It was magnificent. It was almost almost like a symphony. Like the plot was effortless. It was so well done. It was so intricate, and every moment in the movie that I was wondering what they mentioned, what they were talking about, or what was happening, it happened. Or like it wasn't so far off that I wasn't searching the whole time. I was so engaged with the tempo and what they were doing. Loved Bo Burnham in it. Oh my goodness, I love that man so much.
Great.
And
I have to ask, have you seen Eighth
I
Grade?
really want to.
I've seen Eighth Grade.
I'm very late on it. Very late on it. I really want to.
It's good.
Because I'm a but seeing him in this kind of like as like a main, heartthrobbing kind of character actually is like finally. I was like waiting for that for Bo, and so that was really nice to see. And the ending is just chef kiss, so great. So it's I almost put it at my number one, but my number one I feel very strongly about in terms of like it captures everything, and that one it's almost tied for first is Promising Young Woman.
Don't spoil it.
Not spoiling it.
I definitely agree with a lot of the. I didn't even everything with Bo Burnham was really interesting. I'm really glad that he's getting more into the movie side of the industry. He's done like everything else. He's done music, comedy. Yeah, he hasn't done like TV yet. But it was very interesting to see him in that kind of role. I think what I like most about it is it really is a thriller, but it is the most candy-coated thriller I think that there is out there. You just really do not know what to expect next or how she's doing with it, and then it just feels so clever. Of like, that's genius. Like I wouldn't have even thought that like this was like how she was going about doing this or things like that. The character just like the costumes too, just like her, I want her hair. It's gorgeous. I know that's weird, very beside the point, but it's a great movie. But yeah, so mine was mentioned before, and it was not great to you guys, but my number two is I'm Thinking of Ending Things. And I don't.
Nice talk.
I'm sorry.
All right.
Here's the thing.
No.
I was confused too, I will admit, but I think the good thing about being a worrywart and an anxious person is that you kind of jump to conclusions. So a lot of the things I was like, oh yeah, this is this, right? And then you kind of watch like other people on YouTube being like, oh, this was the meaning of this. I was like, I knew it, or at least I thought I did. A lot of the, it's very hard to talk about it without spoilers.
Of course, yeah.
But a lot of the symbolism, especially the bigger ones of who these people are, I kind of got, not right away, but just kind of with the fact they both have red hair, I guess I could say that without it being weird, made me understand why the movie was like it was. Of three people having the same hair color, of me kind of being like interesting sort of thing. The way that I just thought that stylistically it was interesting. I'm a sucker for weirdly cryptic and creepy things. That's why I love WandaVision, because it's like, what does this mean? What is like that? What's this? Why are there hexagons? But her just speaking very morbidly in the car, like doing that little poem she does. How she keeps switching like what she does with her life, how they're eating ham, even though he was talking about what happened to the pigs before. It's very, it keeps me intrigued. Like, what is actually really happening? Like, clearly this isn't good. It's not really good. Like, what is happening is not good, but it's intriguing of like, what is really going on? I liked the animation for I forget what the fake Dairy Queen is. I read the book after I watched the movie, and I recommend that if you guys have the chance, read the book, because
Okay.
it doesn't the little bits before each chapter starts kind of gives you a little bit of a heads up of what it means, kind of in the grand scheme of things, but it's from the girl's perspective still,
Okay.
in a deeper way, and it goes more before the whole dinner even happened.
This is the kind of movie that I see benefiting watching multiple times.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I will say that despite the fact that I was unsatisfied, it is a film that I would love to analyze. I will say that.
But yeah, I don't know why it's number 2, because it's just a movie that I think about a lot. It's strange in like the best way. Like I when you're like, oh, like they did this because of this, like you'll go back and think like, yeah, that makes more sense. But the whole beauty of it is that it's not really supposed to make sense. You're supposed to be not really confused, but you're supposed to.
Yeah. And I know that's what he wants to do, and I want to figure it out.
Supposed to like make you think about life and stuff, and it's very dumb. But yeah, it's definitely. I think since it's on, I think that since it's on our worst and our best list, I think it's worth checking out. Definitely worth recommending. It's on Netflix. It's a very interesting film, and you can definitely draw your own conclusions. I would also recommend reading the book. I didn't get to finish it because like I had a very large library find, so but I got the gist. I got a good chunk into it, and I already knew the ending. So it has a very. Yeah. I will say the movie is a lot more vague than the book is, but I definitely think it's at least worth checking out.
I would agree.
Alrighty then. So I'm going to be quite elaborate with this one because this film is, I've actually seen this now 3 times, and there not a day goes by that I don't think about it at least once, and because I connect to it personally. And I really hope that neither of you have heard of it because I want to highly recommend it. And my favorite movie of 2020 was Relic. It is a movie that did something that a horror film has never done before. It's a horror film that made me cry. And when I say cry, I mean ugly cry. Like super, super hard cry. And that's because the movie deals with dementia, how it affects the person that has the illness, as well as how it affects the family relationships who have to deal with the person with the illness. My grandmother, RIP, had dementia, and that was one of the factors that caused her to pass away. And every single scene in the film just made me feel like I was revisiting my grandmother and just watching her slowly melt away. And what really hits it home for me is that it's also a horror film that legitimately terrified me. There's a couple scenes in the film that I actually had to watch through my fingers because I was genuinely scared by it. I think it is a magnificent movie. It works on so many ways. I think it's a terrific directorial debut from Natalie Erica James, I believe an Australian filmmaker, and I can't recommend enough. And the fact that I managed to show this to my cousins who hate horror films, and even they ended up loving it. And also, yes, we all cried and hugged it out at the end. Yeah.
Aww. I saw it on other people's best list, and every time I looked at it, it was, mixed reviews online. But from people I know, I've heard a lot of good things about Relic. I might go see it.
I really wish it had more appreciation. I can't recommend it enough. I pre-ordered the Blu-ray just so I could rewatch it. I absolutely love it.
Incredible. So my favorite best movie of 2020 has to go to Sound of Metal.
Ooh, yes.
It checks off so many boxes for me of what I look for in a movie. I look for a topic that I haven't seen in a movie. What happens when a drummer loses his 75% of his hearing, almost deaf. And what is that like? And it's a movie that puts you there with him. So audibly, it will hurt your ears to watch it because it's immersive. And Riz Ahmed is just so good in this because it was 1,000% believable to see his character think the way he does, make the decisions he does, and what the consequences are from those and how he handles it. I was brilliant. As much as, and here's the thing, I know that it's not for a lack of like, oh darn, but like Chadwick Boseman, I know will probably win the Best Actor. But in case he doesn't, in case it's an upset, it should go to Riz, because his performance in this movie is just such. It's a career like making, like it's an iconic performance to me based on what he gave. And I loved also the Best Supporting Actor. The guy who runs the deaf community camp is spectacular. So if he's not nominated for Best Supporting, I'll get really mad. But it's an Amazon movie, and I just, from beginning to end, was gripped. It was believable. I cried. It was everything I want from a movie. And it's also a gray area movie where, like, commentary wise, where do you stand on it and how would you handle it? I love movies like that. So that's why, for me, it is my #1 favorite best movie of 2020. I hope it gets a lot of attention in Oscar season.
Great. Well, Rachel just said in the comments that she liked that it actually has a lot of deaf culture, and as somebody who studied sign language for about, I'll give myself credit and be like 6 years at most, just with all the classes that I've taken for it. I know I've remembered very little, but I've studied it a lot, and I have also, like Rachel, interacted with the deaf community on a small scale. I think that that's definitely important. I love seeing the deaf culture portrayed in film, especially when it's authentic. Mr. Holland's Opus was like one of the first that I saw after taking so many sign language classes and learning it, that really portrayed it in a really nice way, and just how tough it can be in different relationships within people that can hear and can't, or on the way to becoming deaf. So yeah, I definitely will have to check that out. So yeah, I have to check out both. Relic sounds great too. So my #1 has been mentioned on various levels, all good, for this entire video, and that's just Pixar's Soul. And I know Maggie was like, Onward did what Soul did to a lot of people, and I'm one of those lot of people. It's one of the last movies I watched during 2020, and I don't know why. It was the only one on this list that made me cry.
Aww.
It was not even at a normal time that somebody would cry. There is just when he's kind of looking back at his life, and just when, it's not really a spoiler, when his feet are in the ocean.
Aww.
And he's just spending time with his mom. It just like hit me hard for some reason, because that's just one of the most human feelings I think that anybody can feel. It's just the water coming up to them and heating their ankles at the ocean. And
if it makes you feel better, I definitely cried during that scene as well. Just in reminiscing, that made me cry too.
Yeah. And in the grander scheme of the whole movie, first of all, animation is one of the most underrated mediums when it comes to just filmmaking, I think, in any capacity. I was so happy when Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse won Best Animated Picture, because it honestly pushed the limits of what animation can be, and how it can portray stories and tell stories, and how it can just be a film in general. And I hate it when people that say it's for kids, because hogwash. This is not necessarily a children's film. It is definitely at least a family film, but it's something that an adult like me that is just kind of going out into the world can definitely appreciate. I could feel something from this, because I think we have grown up on Pixar movies, and now the people that work at Pixar have also grown up with these Pixar movies, and they're portraying these feelings of being in the world more than just things that kids can appreciate, I guess, in my weird opinion. But the animation in this is gorgeous. The souls, I guess, very interesting texture. I don't know why, but I want to touch it. It's music has been a very huge part of my life. I've played the saxophone for about 10 years now, I'm like, give or take. It's, and just seeing a character kind of like Mr. Gardner in these people's lives, like just showing how music can impact someone or people is very important, I think, and just the whole grand scheme of things with human life and how interesting and different each of our experiences can be and how precious it is, and things like that, and just the little things that I think that the little things that I miss because I can't do that anymore because of the pandemic, and just the way that the political climate has been, and just everything that's been happening of that very crappy year. It made me remember why I love being human and love being on this planet so much, whether it's hearing somebody at this bus station, getting your hair cut and getting a lollipop after, eating food, eating good food, talking to your mom, all of these great things. But I think at its core, I loved Soul because of the representation that Black people get in it. They do not have the cookie cutter Pixar looking faces that they've had before. They look like different people. They have the different facial features that Black people have, that white people have. It's gorgeous, and it's the movie that we needed right now, especially even now. It's like even this month into 2021, I think that it just reminds us what it means to be human, and just the great things that come along with doing that. So that's why Soul's my number one.
It's a fair number one, because I know it definitely hit people the same way, and I think it's on the tops of a lot of people's lists. So definitely not weird. It definitely makes a lot of sense.
I like
I'm really happy that top tier Pixar is back, because I was very excited when I first watched it, and Onward was definitely good, but I just found it kind of mid tier, to be perfectly frank. But yeah, I know I did cry at the end of Onward, but with Soul,
the start of it becoming back, because like Finding Dory and The Good Dinosaur were not great movies. I watched all of them. It was not great. Yeah, but
I don't upset people by saying that, but yeah, no, Good Dinosaur stink. All right, but and then Finding Dory, I agree, was not like I wanted to like Finding Dory, but there was something missing in it, and I didn't like The Incredibles 2. I really didn't like The Incredibles 2.
I liked The Incredibles. The Incredibles is my favorite Pixar movie.
But not the second.
Those
are some fighting words right there.
Just man, I don't know what it was. I really didn't like the second Incredibles. There was something in the plot that really messed me up. So
do a top Pixar movies one in the future. We need to talk about new movies.
Absolutely.
But yeah. So let's go looking forward, I guess. What are some of the movies that we're excited to see in 2021 now that the worst year, I already tell 2021 is hopefully going to get better, but the worst year is over now. What are we looking forward to? Hopefully movies that we were supposed to see then. Evan, you can start, I guess, since we can just go in the order we've been going in.
Right. Well, that's the thing. It's like having a most anticipated movies just at this point, still the way that the virus is, it just feels kind of pointless, because I feel like a few of the movies I'm most excited for still might not come out. But I will say that a few movies I am very excited for, Dune, which is supposed to come out in October. I am incredibly excited for that. I love Denis Villeneuve. The Green Knight, which is an A24 movie, which I have been so excited for since last year was delayed, and it's supposed to come out in July. I'm very excited for it. No Time to Die, the new 007 movie. My wife and I are currently going through all the 007 movies. Hopefully we can rank them at some point soon. And if I had to pick like a superhero film, I'm honestly really excited for The Suicide Squad. I think that's going to be a nice redo when compared to that other film that we will not talk about. So I am very excited for all of those. And there's plenty of other films I'm still excited for. Now that the trailer is finally out, I am kind of excited for Godzilla versus King Kong, even though it's probably just going to be a mindless action film.
Right.
Perfect. Maggie?
For me, I mean, a lot of it, man, with what I'm doing with movies lately, a lot of, when it comes to current movies, I lift my head above water for the Oscar-nominated movies, and we'll dive deep into that. It's fascinating to me how late Golden Globes, and not only that the Golden Globes and the Oscars are still happening, but that they're happening this late. So I'm actually kind of anxious to see where the Golden Globe nominations happen. Seasonally speaking, I'm just sort of, that's actually what I'm looking forward to, is knowing the pulse of what I missed, or was I on the same pulse as what we were talking about tonight. Minari, I'm hearing a lot about it. And
I've seen it.
It's going to be nominated for something. Oh, you've seen it, yeah. And that one sounded like it was dipping towards 2021. So like I wanted to wait before seeing it, not for this call or for this show, but I thought of it. Nomadland.
Also seen it.
That's because I love Frances. Yeah, I just love Frances McDormand. So
she's amazing.
I'm so excited because 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri was a movie that just shattered me.
It was great.
Blew me away. So good, and I'm just chomping at the bit of like movies like that. So if it's similar to that, then I'm there. And like I said, I'm not a big superhero person. But I honestly am kind of excited to see Robert Pattinson be Batman. I'm here for it because I love Robert Pattinson. It's not even a Twilight thing. It's literally, I am so impressed with the trajectory he's taken as an actor in the last few years. I love how different his roles have been, and it's so funny seeing him as a personality take on Batman. And I know how I don't want to say trolling, but like he has this self-awareness that is so funny and turns people off, or like how much he actually hated Twilight is so funny to listen and watch because he was in it, but he like really hated it. So that level of self-awareness in the Batman world, I'm like, yes, please, Robert Pattinson, do anything you want to this, because I know you're gonna.
I have to ask, have you seen The Lighthouse with Robert Pattinson?
I have.
No, there's no movies like that anymore. Oh, it's refreshingly weird and artsy, and it's like as someone who watches too many movies, I was like, this robbed. William Dafoe and Robert Pattinson were both robbed for acting nominations. Robbed.
You.
Robbed. Oh, well, here's the thing. The Lighthouse was a movie that the Academy was so afraid to touch, and I get it. But at the same time, like, you're missing out. Like, you really should watch The Lighthouse. If you haven't seen it, watch it, and don't say we didn't warn you on the weirdness, because it is weird.
Yes.
And it's a lot to take in, but worth every minute watching it. Like, Good Time with Robert Pattinson blew me away. He wasn't that bad in Tenet. It's just that, like, it was But, yes, because of Robert Pattinson's trajectory, him in the Batman movie, I will break out of my comic book shell to like actually go see it, because I'm actually highly fascinated to see him play Batman and Colin Farrell play Mr. Penguin, and so I'm ready for that.
The Lighthouse was interesting, and I think that's about as much as I'm going to say about it. I will say I wanted to like it, and I kind of did.
Yeah.
Because it was weird in the best way.
So it sounds like it's your I'm thinking of ending things a little bit.
Yeah. But yeah, I am also excited to see him in Batman. I think Kirsten Stewart and Robert Patterson, they're both good actors that were in really bad Twilight movies, and everybody just kind of holds it against them. Honestly, I watched Halloween week. I watched all of the Twilight movies again. They got better. They're not great, but they got better. And I think that the first one's just terrible though. But anyways, back to looking forward, I guess. I'm not trying to excuse Twilight though. The Judas and the Black Messiah is like the first one that's coming out that I'm very excited to see.
I got to mention that.
Nearly got a chance to see that early. It's part of the Sundance Film Festival that I'm doing, but it was sold out.
That sucks. Yeah, but that comes up February 12th. But so does Barb and Star Visit Distil Del Mar. They both come out that Friday. So I'm gonna watch both. I'm gonna do like a double feature of that, 2 very different films, but I'm gonna watch them both on the same day. Godzilla vs. Kong looks really fun. I'm excited. I don't know who's gonna win yet, but we should definitely talk about it. I'm really excited for Black Widow, but I'm also excited from I had to look it up because I was like, I know that there's more Marvel movies that are supposed to come out this year. Although I did hear Black Widow might get delayed again. But Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, that's coming out in July. Eternals is coming out in November. and then whatever the new Spider-Man is going to come out around Christmas. So, and I love Spider-Man. He's probably like the favorite. It's him and the Captain America movies in the MCU that like I absolutely adore. So I'm really excited for that in the coming year. But the one thing that one movie that I'm interested in what Netflix is going to come out with, because I know they're releasing like a new movie a week, but the preview they did for that, most of them looked like stinkers. So, or something that I was like, that's just not my vibe. So we'll see with that. But I think the one movie that I'm really excited to see is Free Guy, because Ryan Reynolds, and it's I think that it's going to be an interesting movie, especially with how video games are kind of a big part of our culture right now. So that'll be interesting. I forget her name, but she's in Killing Eve. She's in it, and of course Joe Keery's in it, and Taika Waititi, he's going to be in it too. And I think he directs it, or he's something. He's great. I love him.
Guy in the trailer alone. I did not find him funny, or I heard him a billion times. So that's the only reason why Free Guy I'm not like itching to see it. I'll wait to hear tendrils of like, oh, it was great, or no, don't. I'll wait to hear some public opinion before going for it, based on the trailer. But
I'm just excited for it because I like the people in it. But like, I will agree, like, the premise itself is not enough to sell me. If it was different people, definitely probably wouldn't have been interested. But since it's Ryan Reynolds, I think that's why I wanted to do it. Nothing too big, but it should be good. I'm excited for the Oscars too. But yeah,
I'm very fascinated because when the Oscars happened last year, it was right before everything happened. So they were able to do the award show and the red carpet. So I mean, obviously we've seen a lot of award shows happen since then. So it's not that they can't do it. But it will be fascinating for me to see like what kind of virtual red carpet they'll do, or you know, what it will be like. I'm actually very fascinated to see, and I was very worried that there wouldn't be enough films to nominate on. And after this call, and even just looking at all the lists, I think there are enough to pull together some very worthy movies that I think can be awarded.
If I may make a closing thought, I will say that a lot of people had the wrong idea that 2020 was like the death of cinema, or the death of theaters, or death of movies in general. And to that I say that's bullcrap, because you just simply had to look under the right rocks in order to find some really good hidden gems. And I'm getting sick and tired of people saying that there's no good movies coming out. You just gotta look hard enough.
Exactly.
That's all.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think that's about it. But thank you both. This was really fun. I'm excited to do more movie stuff in the future.
I definitely had a really good time, and I think we had a good energy doing this. It was definitely a good 2 hours. So like maybe okay with a 2 hour segment of us talking about movies.
Yeah.
But I think next time, I mean, when it comes to these like end of year formats, I definitely allows for that. And I loved hearing all of your commentary about movies. You guys gave me a huge list of movies to check out. So
perfect. Yeah, and I agree with Rachel's and comments on a lot of it. And yeah, a lot of hidden gems came up. And she's excited for Free Guy, so we're gonna watch it together.
There you go.
I'm joking.
Oh, let's all get together. Woo!
Yay. Definitely do it. That's the best idea right now. But thank you guys so much. Yeah, you guys recommended a bunch of stuff for me too, and I'm excited to see what we do next. Hopefully talk about Godzilla and the Oscars and a bunch of other movies that'll come out, and everything's going to be great. This year's going to be better. I promise. I hope. So. I can't promise that. Yay, we're friends now. Okay. All right, perfect. Well, we can leave it there. I will see you guys next time. I'll be back for WandaVision next week. Yep. So will Evan, I hope. Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.
Bye.